Hello everyone, Minute Plus Meditation, Monday, November the 22nd. So we just celebrated the glorious solemnity of Christ the King last week, and next Sunday, beginning of Advent. So in the the first reading is taken from the book of Daniel. It's this marvelous recounting of how Daniel and his three companions were captured, were trained by King Nebuchadnezzar, and they would be offered food from the table of the king. But this is what catches my eye. It's a long reading, and I really, as always, I encourage people to read this. Should be our spiritual food or diet for the day. But Daniel resolved that he would not defile himself with the royal rations of food and wine. He asked the palace master to allow him not to defile himself. So he makes a deal with this guy who says, you're going to endanger my life because you're going to look worse than everybody else. The king will be upset at me and he will kill me. So Daniel says, test us for 10 days and just serve us vegetables and water. So the guy does this. And at the end of the 10 days, it was observed that they appeared better and fatter than all the young men who had eaten of the royal rations. There is so much for us here to reflect on and to resolve to put into practice in our daily life if we allow the Holy Spirit to move us in this way. Think of the sacrifice. Do you think you and I could eat vegetables and water, for who knows, this was years, 3 years at least, and the rest of his life actually, probably, here in Babylon. Daniel wasn't against eating meat. He wasn't a vegetarian. And it's not to put vegetarians down, but he wasn't a vegetarian. But he wasn't against wine. Jews are not against wine. But he understood that to do this in a foreign land was to become too accustomed to it. And he wanted to keep his spiritual senses sharp as a razor blade, to use a metaphor. And to do this, he needed to mortify himself. He needed to be sacrificial, not just a day or two, but 24/7 all the time. And he recognized that food is a means to an end. So he was willing, in order to make this sacrifice to the Lord, to give up everything else but vegetables and water. It's not if you think about this, like morning, noon, and night, right? He probably had other things like, who knows what he had in the morning or at noon, but certainly vegetables were his staple diet. And he could have had anything he wanted. But he was willing to make this sacrifice to the Lord. And at the end of it, he not only looked better than the others, but he was probably a lot happier because he was being faithful to the one that he loved. So transfer this into our everyday efforts. Are you and I willing to make sacrifices to the Lord, trusting that if we do give up pleasures that are legitimate, we will actually be happier and more joyful? It will kind of radiate, not that we will glow, but we will at least look more joyful and more cheerful. So it's a question that all of us need to ask, because many times we avoid little mortifications, little sacrifices, because we're lazy, we find them repugnant. Maybe we think they'll take away from our joy, and it's the exact opposite. So we need to pray for the faith of these four individuals who lived hundreds of years before the sacraments. You and I have the Eucharist, sacrament of penance, all, baptism, confirmation, and so on. And then the sacred scriptures, we can read a Bible anytime we want, on our phones, in a real book, and so on. So, where's our faith? So as Advent comes up, what am I going to offer up as a sacrifice to the Lord? What am I going to offer him? What am I going to do, or what am I going to abstain from as a sacrifice? Because I love him and I want to stay sharp. I don't want to be immersed in the sensualities of this world. Okay, so from the Gospel of St. Luke, this is about the poor widow. Okay, so Jesus looked up and saw rich people putting their gifts into the treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 small copper coins. He said, truly, I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. For all of them have contributed out of their abundance, but she out of her poverty has put in all she had to live on. I read the whole Gospel because it's a short one. So, again here, it's not a matter of the Lord saying to us, you have to give away everything in a physical sense. But what the woman's interior attitude was, we are called to strive for. And there's a total dependence upon God. That when we give, no matter what we give, we don't give for show. We don't simply give out of our abundance, but we give kind of out of our need. Not that we hurt ourselves, not that we deprive ourselves of what we really need. But most of us, at least the people who are watching this, we have far more than what we need. And as Catholics, we tend not to be stewardship oriented. We tend not to be tithe oriented. We tend not to be almsgiving oriented because we either don't think about it, we don't trust God enough, we're just not sacrificial in our hearts. We don't take into account all the blessings that God has given to us. And we need to do this. And if we do this, think about Daniel and his 3 companions. They weren't less happy, they were more happy. Why? Because they were doing this for the one they loved. This poor widow, she was actually depriving herself of what she really needed. And Jesus makes it very clear this woman is not going to be overlooked by God. She's going to be taken care of. Just as when you and I make sacrifices to the Lord, He's not going to overlook us. He's not asking us to hurt ourselves or drain our bank account, be irresponsible, but to be sacrificial because God is sacrificial with us. Remember this as we approach the season of Advent, when we see God giving everything of Himself in the crib. You and I will be much happier. God bless you.